jukebox all my life. I used to put a nickel in the jukebox for my mom, and I knew the numbers to press Hound Dog, let me tell you.
Well, there was always Elvis music in my house when I was growing up. My mom has this picture of me at about like 2 years of age or so, and I'm in a diaper, and hands are up on top of a console stereo, and I'm looking over the top of it, so the shot's from the back. And what I'm actually, she said, you're watching an Elvis 45 go around on the turntable, and so it was always in the house. My brother, who's 12 years older than I am, used to drag me to Elvis movies. I say drag me because I'm a kid and short attention span, but he'd drag me. He and a cousin would drag me to Elvis movies. So I remember going to the theater and seeing the movies. And I guess being an Elvis fan is just the fact that outside of just his talent, I think the thing that probably impresses me the most is the person that he was. To me, that's every bit as much a part of the phenomenon of Elvis is the fact that, outside of being a great talent, he was a great human who loved people and gave everything he had for the people around him.
I've been 6 years old. From the first time I ever heard him sing Crawfish from King Creole, I was hooked. I told my mother, "Ma, who's that guy?" She told me his name, and that was it. I wanted all that grease in my hair, and I was like Eddie Munster growing up, man. I just wanted to be Elvis,
When I was a young kid, my parents were divorced. I would go and visit my dad on the weekends, and he would pull up, and I'd be sitting out on the front steps of our house waiting for my dad. And as soon as I get in my dad's car, he would have the 8-track cassette playing of Elvis, and In the Ghetto and Moody Blue, all those different kinds of songs, man. And we would just listen to Elvis the whole way to my dad's house. Oldies, but mostly all Elvis. And to my dad's on Saturday morning, and then on Sunday night when I was on my way at home, we listened to Elvis. So, man, I remember as I got home, I would just think about my dad, of course, because I missed my dad, and of course I would relate Elvis to my father. A little bit later on, I wound up getting a bunch of cassettes, and I had a stereo, and I had the speakers all around the head of my bed, like I nailed them in the wall. So when I laid down, my head was on the pillow, and I had speakers around my head. And I would just play Elvis every single night. I mean, I would hit play on the cassette, on side A of the cassette. I would fall asleep, and the cassette would come off by itself. The following night, I'd flip the cassette over to side B. I'd play side B. And night after night, my whole childhood, I'd listen to Elvis through thick and thin, man, through ups and downs, through whatever, man. I always had Elvis. And when my dad wasn't there, I had Elvis to listen to.
I became an Elvis fan when I was about 12 years old. I was watching the movies. I used to play the movies on Saturday morning TV in London, in England. And I first got into Elvis watching the movies. I loved the movies. The music was fun. The films were easy and just enjoyable. And I grew up watching movies, and that's why I love the Elvis movies so much, because it reminds me of my childhood.
This is a biggie because in 1977, right after Elvis had passed away, I met my now husband, Jerry Russell, and in the process of us dating for 3 years and him courting me, he used to sing to me a lot, and it got me to liking Elvis quite a lot. He introduced me to Elvis. I mean, I already knew about Elvis, but I didn't know as much. And when he proposed to me, he actually got down on his knee and he sang The Wonder of You, and that tied me in. I've been a fan ever since.
And it's just one of those things where it just makes you, it's a reason he's the king. And it taught me a lot about music and where I wanted to go with my music. It opened new doors for me. Like I said, it made me a better musician and appreciate more different types of music. Now I listen to everything. And but I'm still a hard rock and roll blues player. Big time steeped in the blues. Love the blues.
Well, when I was growing up, I was kind of a sport jock, so there was a couple of things that you didn't do. You didn't type, and you didn't sing. In 1971, some of the neighborhood ladies were going to see Elvis in Louisville, and there was a tractor pull, so the guys paid me $100 to take the ladies. I did not want to go. Got there, we saw all the pre-show, and next thing you know, Elvis came out. I'd say about 2 lines into that, I couldn't believe he was a real human being. I thought, there is so much electricity, there was something in the air that it was just, I'd never seen before. And that was it. I saw him like most people do, probably 4 or 5 lines, and he made that boyish smile, and I'm thinking, I've just seen something that I've never experienced before. So it was just, that's kind of how it happened. And I was already in kind of music a little bit, and I did a variety of things, and then kind of we did medleys. And if I did one Elvis song, they'd ask for 2. If I did 2, they wanted 4, and you know how that multiplies. So before I knew it, I was learning Elvis songs. So that's kind of how it happened. It wasn't anything I planned.
I pretty much have always loved music, and pretty much all my life I pretty much grew up on gospel music. And then my dad always had the oldies playing, you know, rock and roll, like Ricky Nelson and of course Elvis. Well, how I became an Elvis fan was growing up, I always heard the name Elvis Presley. And at the time I was about that high, and I didn't even know who Elvis was, so I kept going, who is this guy, you know? And then I watched the video, Elvis on Tour, and I watched him. And when I saw him, I'm like, well, I like him, and that's what made me become an Elvis fan.
Little girl started working at work when I became a chef apprentice. And lo and behold, when I go in the staff room, here she is playing a cassette of Elvis Presley. And he was singing Don't Be Cruel. And I said, hey, I know that song. And she says, yeah, but you can't sing like him. And I was really head over heels over this girl. It was probably my first love. And she said, well, put it this way. She says, I'll only go out with you if you can sound like that. I said, you got yourself a deal. So part of my courtship and part of my homework, beside the cooking and all that type of thing, was to go home and study Elvis Presley. Study his moves, study his sounds, study his voice, everything about him. Well, anyhow, that was a long time in the making. It was about a year and a half. By the time I had started my journey with Elvis Presley, this girl had long moved on. I'd completely forgotten about her. And I met up with her many, many years later, and she was like 400 pounds heavier and getting married. And I said, wow, you've changed. And she says, yeah. She says, I'm getting married. And I said, congratulations. And I said, I did what you asked me to do. And she said, what was that? And I said, I went out and tried to sound like Elvis, just so I could, crack onto you type of thing. I said, but funny thing is, I said, Elvis became the most important thing in my life back when I was 16 years old, because that particular year at Christmas time I lost my 14-year-old brother to meningitis, and so Elvis was my biggest escape.
I loved him from when I was a little kid, and my girlfriend and her mother had tickets to go to a show, and I wanted to go so bad, but I didn't have a ticket, and at the last minute their friend canceled, and she called me and she said, Donna, do you want to go see Elvis Presley? And I said, yes, I do. And I got to go. I didn't even have to pay for my ticket, and it was the best concert. I'll remember him till the day I die, and like I said, I know a lot of the ETAs that go to Memphis every year, because we've been going to Elvis Week every single year for 6 years.
Been a fan of Elvis's since the 1950s. I graduated from Humes in 1956, and I was walking with some friends, and we happened to hear this song, Hound Dog, and I think that's probably the first one of the first songs, or it may have been the first song that Elvis came out with. And it just grew on all of us, and I'd say I've been a big Elvis fan. I think more so now than I was then.